The space combat genre is something that's been lacking for a while. The game we have here is Strike Suit Zero, and this intends to revive it. Instead of waiting to see if this will be the case, we'll take the initiative. The development of the game was funded through Kickstarter. They raised $174 from over 4,000 people. The game is only single player, and it revolves around space combat. This ranges from small skirmishes to large-scale ship-on-ship combat. The missions are pretty standard: kill this target, protect that target, so on and so forth. There's a pretty good system in place to ensure you don't lose track of the objectives. You have your allies flying with you, but I've never really noticed them. Sometimes they take out a target I'm going after, but I only see this because it's counted as a kill assist. They can do some damage to the enemy from time to time. I'm not too sure how much of an impact they have on the overall gameplay, but I know for sure that you still have to play the game to win. I tried this out with a PlayStation 2 controller, but I mainly played this with a mouse and keyboard. In the third mission, you get to use the strike suit, and you have to obtain a resource called Flux to use it. When you use the strike suit, the game feels like it changes completely. For the most part, you'll be using fighter craft. In this mode, you have fast-paced combat. You're evading missiles, you're maneuvering around, and you're destroying targets both big and small. When you transform into the strike suit, it feels like a different game altogether. You lock onto everything, the movement feels way different, and I feel like I have to kill as quickly as possible because I'm a sitting duck in this mode. There's very little in the sense of maneuverability. When I first tried to use the strike mode, I found out that the default sensitivity is different between the strike suit and the fighter craft. So one of the first things I did was lower the sensitivity of the strike suit. I have no idea why they made it this way, because the sensitivity for the strike suit is too much in my opinion. I do come from an FPS background, so I turned both of these settings way down. The whole single player campaign is fun for a while, but the game gets tedious after a few missions. It looks like there's 13 missions in total, and each of them took me at least 25 minutes to complete. After mission 6, I no longer feel like playing. It feels like a chore to me. You're essentially doing the same thing. Destroy this, destroy that, protect this by destroying that. The game gets stale after a while. Even though the story is supposed to emphasize the strike suit, I feel that the game is dictating otherwise. For the most part, I'm seeing fighter-on-fighter action, with the strike suit only being used in a limited fashion. I think they should have switched this around, have the game revolve around the strike mode, and then have it turn into a fighter as a secondary mode for speed and evasion. For the most part, I think they missed the mark on this one. Strike Suit Zero is being touted as the game to bring back space combat, but I'm not impressed. So how will this do on the market? For the short term, within 4 to 8 weeks, no one will care about this game anymore. As harsh as this may sound, nothing really stands out about this game. Well, in all fairness, it is space combat, and we haven't seen this in a while, but nothing stands out unless you count the people in the credits. There were a couple of notable people who worked on this game. All of the spacecraft was designed by Junji Okubo. He worked on Steel Battalion and Appleseed, so people may recognize this name from those two. The theme song for the game was done by Kokia. She sang the opening songs of several animes. Two of those animes that I've watched are Gunslinger Girl Il Teatrino and Requiem of the Phantom. So you may recognize these two people. This may catch some people's attention to the game, but by this 4 to 8 week period, pretty much everyone would have made their reviews and their Let's Plays, so those may ultimately turn them off to the game. As for its long-term presence, I have no reason to believe there will be any DLC for this game. It's kind of pointless. DLC wouldn't improve the underlying core of the gameplay. I mean, what would the DLC be anyway? A couple more tedious missions? Even if this was made, I don't think anyone would be interested in this. The Kickstarter page mentions modding tools. This was one of their stretch goals, so within 3 to 6 months, any hardcore fans would have made some mods for the game. If we learned anything from Arma 2 and DayZ, a really good mod would be the game's saving grace. I predict a Star Wars mod. Let's just put that out there. Also within this period, someone may throw this game out there as a recommendation, like someone on Reddit asking about space combat games. One of the replies will be Strike Suit Zero. Besides that, unless someone makes a really good mod, I don't think anyone will be talking about this game in the long run. To sum things up, Strike Suit Zero is okay, but I think it tries to be two things at once. It should either be about space fighters or about Gundams. Yeah, let's just call it like it is. The Strike Suit is a Gundam, or at least it tries to be. I think they should have just focused on one of these things. They could have made this purely space fighter combat, and that would be awesome. But as I said earlier, focus on the Strike Suit, focus on making the controls and the gameplay around it smooth as silk, and then have a secondary fighter mode. They really dropped the ball when they pulled the gameplay in two different directions, and they ended up with two subpar experiences. The game has a $15 price tag. If you don't have this yet, wait until it's under $10 before considering the purchase. That's all I got. Thanks for watching, and I'll do a follow-up on the game in a few months.